I will start my presentation here. Okay, so hopefully you still see the big screen. Okay, so just a little bit of intro about myself. As you mostly know, I am half Brazilian, half German, and I used to have a very different path to what I do now. I used to work in corporate. I studied business in the UK. I studied languages, and I had this thrilling career in Switzerland, earning shitloads of money. But the only one happy was my bank account, and I wasn't. And that was very difficult because at that period, I didn't know what else I could do, right? I had studied business. I didn't know what I didn't know what my life purpose was or my talents or anything outside of corporate. And at that time, I was in a karmic relationship that I'm gonna share with you later what that was about. So I followed that man to Azerbaijan and worked for NGOs. And I thought, yeah, I'm gonna help the world now and it's gonna be much more fulfilling, but I still didn't like being in those offices. There was still office politics going on. Lots of tension, and I just really didn't like it. And the relationship that I had went from bad to worse as well. So I really fled that country after 6 months, and I ended up in Europe again, where I had a breakdown in the bathroom, and I decided I can't go on like this. I felt like I don't have a life purpose. I don't know who I am. I don't have a relationship. No one loves me, and I was just sobbing, feeling sorry for myself. And I started praying to God, with whom I didn't have any relationship at that point. And I just started to hear Reiki in my head then. And I was like, what the fuck is Reiki? And I didn't know what Reiki was and never met anyone who did Reiki. But I went to research it, and it said it's all about balancing chakras. And I felt like, wow, that's what I need, even though I didn't know what chakras were. So I went to Thailand. I decided to study Reiki, meditation, and other energy therapies, and just to take care of myself, basically. That was the intention there. But then I quickly came to realize that this is my life purpose. I really loved doing what I was doing, helping people. And I just felt like I was healing myself so quickly through all these modalities that I wanted to bring the same benefit to other people. And I started seeing my first past lives during my Reiki training, my meditation training. And that was just so exciting when I started seeing all these past lives, and I started making sense out of all my karmic relationships with my parents, especially my mom, my dad also a bit, karmic relationship with my exes. And so I'm going to tell you all about it a bit later, but just so to set the scene and then to tell you why I'm talking about past lives. Also growing up, especially as a teenager, I always had a fear of death, and it was not the process of death itself. It was really the imagination that nothing happens after death that freaked me out completely. I couldn't visualize like lying in a coffin and it's dark, and well, not even that I could visualize, because obviously when you're dead, you don't see that anymore, but it was just horrifying. I couldn't, visualize just nothing happening. And I had these big fears that nothing would happen until when I was 18, 19 years old, and my mom gave me a book. It's called Many Masters, Many Lives. I'm gonna share with you later the link. And it was hypnotherapy case studies from a very famous psychiatrist in the US that had done past life research with his clients that had like amazing healing through those past lives that they saw. And so finally understood, and I hoped that, my soul continues. So since 17, 18, 19, I've been very interested in past lives, reincarnation, and just understanding more about this stuff. But it wasn't until when I was around 30 and I went to Thailand and started, experiencing those past lives that I really understood what it was about. Okay, so why are we doing this right now? So this year is a very karmic year. It's a number 9 year. It's if you count 2016, all the numbers, it adds up to 9. And the energy of the 9 is all about new beginnings and endings, meaning that lots of my clients, myself as well, lots of friends of mine, they had to let go of karmic relationships or, bad friendships or other, situations in their lives. So there was a lot of healing required this year, a lot of letting go, a lot of forgiveness, and especially now, September, that's coming up now, the whole month, it's a number 9 month as well, so it's even amplified. So I thought it's a great opportunity now to share all of this, because maybe some of you might experience a little bit of, you know, trauma or a bit of karma coming up this month, and just so you know what you can do about it later on when I will share it with you. Okay, so what is reincarnation? What does it actually mean? So the word reincarnation derives from the Latin, and it means entering the flesh again. And we also have the Greek equivalent called metempsychosis, and that derives from meta, which means change, and emsikun, I hope I'm pronouncing it right, to put the soul into. So it's a term that is attributed to Pythagoras, actually. And another Greek term that is used is palingenesis. Now, I never heard of these terms before, but I just thought I would share. And so reincarnation, it actually refers to the belief that an aspect of every human being continues to exist after death. So that, you know, can be the soul, the mind, the consciousness, whatever you might call it. It's something that is transcended, which is reborn in an interconnected cycle of existence. And probably most of you know that all major Indian religions, like the Buddhists, you know, in Hinduism and in Jainism, Sikhism, all these religions, it's an integral part of their belief system, this reincarnation. And they all believe that this reincarnation is a cyclic and endless process, unless you get enlightened and then you step out of that wheel of karma. And I'm sure you all saw that picture of a wheel of karma. So yeah, that's basically what happens once you reach enlightenment. You stop incarnating here on Earth. Yeah, and then you can finally go relax somewhere else. So, and the idea of reincarnation is also found in other cultures, of course, and in indigenous tribes, like in Australia, the Aborigines, for example, a lot of tribes in Brazil, and all these shamans around the world, it's all part of their belief system. And even though the major religions, Christianity, Judaism, Islam, they don't believe in reincarnation, but parts, like little groups of those religions do. And you might have heard of the Kabbalah, for example, followers of Kabbalah. It's an ancient Jewish belief system, or the Druids, Druze, sorry, the Cathars, the Alawites, the Rosicrucians, it's all part of their belief system too. Now, in recent decades, though, you know, even like in America, Europe, all over the place in the world, it's becoming more known, more accessible. There's like movies about it now, books, lots of books. If you go research on Amazon, there's tons of books on past life healing and reincarnation. So it's not really, you don't have to be a Buddhist to believe in it. And in fact, I'm not anything. I'm not even baptized. So yeah. Let's see here, next slide. So yeah, in fact, reincarnation is the journey of our soul. I think that's beautiful. And then I did a little bit of research because I was interested to know how many people actually believe in reincarnation. And there has been a study, like 18,000 people, so quite significant. And they found out that 51% of all those people believe in reincarnation. And only 23% they believe that they will cease to exist, and about a quarter said that they actually do not know what will happen after death. But I thought those figures are quite nice. It's quite high, 51%. So then I wanted to talk a bit about soul families. I'm not sure if you heard of that term before, or if you know anything about soul groups, soul families. For me, that was quite a new concept. I had no idea about it. For me, a family was by blood. And when I came to understand that we also have soul families, that is purely based on our essence, on our soul, I was quite amazed. Because let me tell you, when I grew up, I felt like I had been adopted. I kept asking my mom, hey, mom, I must have been adopted, right? I don't believe that I am part of this family. It's quite an insult actually to my parents, but that's what I felt like. And she said, no, of course not. You don't. You haven't been adopted. But it's because of, obviously we are blood related, but we were not of the same soul family, as I came to realize in my meditations and in my healings later on. So I don't know if any one of you might relate to this. If you felt like you're the stranger in the family, then you might know why. Anyway, a little bit more about these soul families. So soul families, what happens is, and they are different, there's a difference in size. You might be in a soul family of 5 people, there might be 10 people, 20 people, or even more. It depends. And the overriding purpose of your soul group is to incarnate here on Earth again and again in order to figure out what everything is like and to experience all circumstances and events together in a group. So you may have wronged one or some of your members a few times in a past life, so you need to incarnate again and again until that associated karma is worked out between you guys. And in fact, you could choose to incarnate together just for the experience of, like, for example, I don't know, meeting a soulmate. Could be in one life, but in another life, your soulmate is actually your mom or a child. So there's really different constellations, and there's no end in variety. It could be a friend, and it could be someone else important in your life that you just meet briefly. And yeah, members of soul, they can come and go in your life. So it doesn't mean just because you met a member of your soul family that they will stay. Many times they also leave, especially if it's in a relationship. It might be a karmic relationship, and then you just end the relationship and you go separate ways. That's quite common and normal, and also healthy in many cases. So yes, and then I wanted to talk about soul contracts, and I don't want you to visualize now an actual contract that people sign up there before they come down here, but it's like an agreement, a mutual agreement that you make with everyone that you meet in this life that is important to you, either in a good way, but also in a bad way. You had an agreement in place, right? You decided already beforehand, hey, we're going to meet and I'm going to teach you this and that lesson. Maybe it's about abandonment. Maybe it's about something else. Maybe you decided, hey, I want to marry you. I want to have your kids. It's all decided beforehand. Even the bad experiences, at least most of them, it's all decided beforehand. And yeah, now you might ask, why do we ask, to experience something bad? That sounds stupid, doesn't it? But at the end of the day, those bad lessons, like being abandoned by your soulmate, it's like such a catalyst for growth. I experienced that myself. Like when I was in a karmic relationship, I felt like I couldn't leave. We kept breaking up, coming back together, feeling guilty, so yeah, it's awful when you're in a karmic relationship. But we had agreed on it, and what happened was that this made me turn to meditation, to Reiki, and to find my life purpose. If I hadn't met that man, I would not be here doing this webinar right now. So it's quite amazing what these awful experiences can do to you. So yeah, we choose bad experiences, we choose good experiences, and we come here with our soul family to experience all of these things together. And so also what I wanted to share is you might even change your soul family. So that happened to me. I was in a quite small soul family. And, I'm quite eager with my self-development and my self-healing and spirituality and just evolving spiritually, because this is like, my favorite topics, my hobby. And my soul family wasn't so much into that. I guess they were not evolving as quickly. So I left that soul family, and I saw that in a meditation. That was quite funny that I left that soul group, and I was welcomed by a very different soul group that was a bit bigger, or actually much bigger. And they were all on the same level as I was. So that can also happen, that you leave your actual soul family, the one you had before, and then you go and meet another soul family. Because sometimes there might be a lot of karma within a soul family or in your family, and if you don't resolve it together, you will be coming back again and again to resolve it. And sometimes you're the only one that realizes this and everyone else doesn't. So in that case, many people just, do their own thing, continue and heal themselves, and just leave their soul family to go to another soul family that takes these things more serious. Okay, so that was about soul contracts. And also sometimes, I don't know if you had these weird experiences where you meet someone for like a minute, 10 minutes, it's really briefly, but somehow they have such an impact on you and they change the direction of your life, or they remind you again what your life purpose is, or something significant happens. And then after you meet them, you're like, who the heck was this person? So they can also be members of your soul family, even though you only met like 5 minutes. And I had some of these weird experiences One time I was in Laos, lying on a bench at the airport all by myself, and there were these two monks, one woman and one guy, coming, and they sat next to me, and the woman was like, "Hey, can I touch your feet?" I was like, okay. So she started touching my feet, and then she said, "You're so special. Thank you for allowing me to touch you, and compliments to your mother," and so on. I was freaked out by that, so I just left and I went to check in for my flight. And then I boarded my flight, and then who was sitting in my row? It's those two monks again. And I said, "Oh shit, this is gonna be an interesting flight now." And then this woman continued, "Oh, you're special, you have a big mission, but also you're in a karmic relationship that's gonna end," and that was with that karmic guy that I'm gonna talk about later as well. And yeah, I was just freaked out by all of that. But a few months later, it did end. The relationship did end, and then I really thought, who the heck were those people? So I'm sure the universe was trying to send me a message, like a pre-warning that something's going to happen, but that I'm fine. And, maybe he sent those people from my soul family. That was, in the end, it's a nice thought. And you might have had like similar experiences with other people that just popped up. Okay, so why do we really incarnate again and again? So here's a nice quote: "Reincarnation is essential to enable the soul to evolve to its divine right." So if we see Earth as our school or our playground, this is where we experience ourselves as human beings with a body, because that's who we are. We are a soul and we have a body, right? We are not a body with a soul in this way. And our spiritual progression is raised exponentially by incarnating here on Earth many times, because it's a tough place, I can tell you that, right? There's so many tough lessons we come here to learn, and it's these big and painful moments that are catalysts for change and that make us grow, on an emotional level, mental level, spiritual level, as human beings. And we come here, quite frankly, to experience heartbreak, forgiveness, detachment, letting go, abandonment, because, in Source, we don't experience those things. We only experience unconditional love out there. So obviously we want to experience all emotions, good and bad. And we come here to evolve as souls. And just think about it, all the lessons one can learn. Would one life be enough? For me, it's quite impossible to think that in just one lifetime you get to learn all that you need to learn. And also I want to talk about talents or, special skills. Oftentimes we reincarnate, and we build on those talents and skills that we already had in previous lifetimes. So for me, I was quite astonished when I saw my past lives. I saw myself as a healer. I saw myself as a psychic. I was helping people in the past, and it dawned on me that, this is what I was good at in previous lives, and I'm building on it in this life now. And this kind of past life research or regression is quite good if you're like really, confused with your life. You don't know what your purpose is. You're doing one job, but you hate it, just like I did. And you just want to find out more about your soul and your talents and your hidden talents. So that's quite exciting. Also look at Mozart, for example, right? When he was 5 or 6, he composed his first music piece. For sure, he must have been like this other famous musician before he got reincarnated. And then we also come here to master the fact that we create our own reality. And that's based on our thoughts, beliefs, and our actions. And, if we behave badly, our behavior will cause a reaction, which is the law of cause and effect, which I will talk about later as well. And, ultimately, we come here to be the best version of ourselves that we can possibly be and to reach enlightenment. Now, enlightenment is this big word, but I think all what it means is that we come here to self-realize ourselves with whatever it is. We don't have to go and meditate on a tree for 20 years. We can just be kind, be loving, and be who we are, and self-realize ourselves, go after our dreams, and that is self-realization. And okay, next slide. So, okay, this morning I was meditating. I was asking for guidance from my spirit guides to ask, why do we really incarnate again and again? I wanted their perspective. And then they showed me this picture of a tree inside of a trunk, right? With all these circles, and I was laughing in my meditation. It's like, what is that supposed to mean? But what they were telling me then is that you start off your first life as the inner ring, right? It's a very small little circle, and that this is because you don't have any awareness yet. You barely know who you are on a soul level. You know nothing. You don't have any higher consciousness levels yet. You have to learn everything from scratch because you're just a little baby soul incarnating here for the first time on Earth, right? And then you come back and it's already a slightly bigger ring, and you gain more experience. You get to know more about yourself and your environment and other people. And so it goes on and on and on until the rings become bigger, 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 and you just grow so much on every level, also spiritually, until there's the last ring. And that is when you reach your enlightenment, when you learned all your lessons, all that you came here and you wanted to learn. And when you sorted out all your karma with everyone, that's the last ring. And then, yeah, you can go off and relax somewhere else. So I wanted to share this because in the end I thought it was quite cute that they showed me this picture. And then I love this quote because it's just, I think Shakespeare knew what was going on when he said, all the world's a stage and all the men and women are players. They have their exits and their entrances, and one man in his time plays many parts, his act being 7 ages. You know, that's how I see my life nowadays. I'm just acting a role as Lais, you know, as a healer here, but I have many other lives, many other personalities. I was a woman, I was a man, I was a child, all the different things. And so have you. And we just come here to play out all those different roles, and I think it's quite funny, really. So next up is Kids with Past Life Memories, and I put the website up here. You can copy it maybe, because on this website there's a ton of research done on kids with past life memories, and it's really quite amazing what you find on there. So the most compelling reincarnation cases of small children are all listed there, and they all spontaneously remember past lives that can be actually verified. And it's this Ian Stevenson, he's quite famous in that topic, in that area. He compiled over 1,200 of all these case studies with proof of their reincarnation. And what happens actually is that the child, as soon as it starts talking, starts telling his or her parents about past incarnations. And these memories can include their names in the past life, the names of their parents, their family members from the prior incarnation. You might even remember the city or the country they were born in. Sometimes they even speak suddenly a different language. It's quite amazing. Language they have never been exposed to, and they're suddenly speaking it. So that's quite freaky. Yeah, so I really suggest you go to that website because there's a ton of information. But the most amazing one I quickly wanted to share is about Anne Frank, who was this young Jewish girl that got prosecuted by the Nazis, and she was hiding in Holland before, in Amsterdam, in an attic. And she wrote that famous diary. And she was really young, maybe, I don't even remember, a young teenager when she wrote that. And well, she died in a concentration camp, I think. And in the 1950s then, a child was born in Sweden, and as soon as she could actually speak, she told her parents, my name is not this and this name, whatever her name was, my name is Anne Frank. And her parents freaked out, and it's like, there's no Anne Frank, who's Anne Frank? They didn't know back then. And however, this little girl, she had all sorts of traumas, especially when she saw men in uniform that reminded her of, you know, Nazi police officers. And she kept insisting, you know, my name is Anne Frank and you're not my real parents. My real parents will come and get me soon, because she still thought her parents, you know, were those in the previous life. And so it went on and on and on until she reached, I think she was 10 years old. And by then the diaries of Anne Frank had been published. And one of the teachers in her school started talking about that diary and about Anne Frank. And then this girl was like, what? So she started reading about that Anne Frank in her diary, and then she told her parents, I really need to go to Amsterdam. And the parents, by then, they had already heard so much about Anne Frank, and said, okay, why not? So they went to Amsterdam, they got to the station, and then they were asking for directions, but this little girl, she was only 10, she said, no, I know the way, it's not far from here. And so she had never been to Amsterdam or to the Anne Frank house, but she knew the way. She arrived there, looked at the house, looked the same, but the entrance looked different, the stairs looked different. She said, oh, it looks different. And then when they asked the museum people, they confirmed that indeed they had changed the entrance. And she went up to her room where she used to live, and she said, yeah, everything looks the same, but all the pictures are gone from the wall. And the parents are like, but how do you know there were pictures? So again, they asked the museum people, and they confirmed that they had just taken off the pictures because they wanted to repaint or something the wall, and then they would put them up again. And many more facts also. And then this woman actually wrote a book about her memories of Anne Frank, and it's all on that website too, and it's really amazing. Okay. Next up. Oh, special kids. I like that topic. So I have to say, since many or a few decades now, especially now, more and more kids are being diagnosed with autism, with ADD, with ADHD, and they're being heavily medicated or, you know, being stigmatized with behavioral problems, etc. And in fact, a lot of research was done on all these kids. And so I want to share this research. And the first, let's call them special kids that came to Earth was around 1980s, but sometimes even before that. And they were called the Indigo children. So in simple terms, an Indigo child is a warrior spirit. It's always challenging, questioning the ways of the world, and has a strong sense of a higher purpose. Okay, so who is this Indigo child? Well, basically they're a pain in the asses. They don't like to follow rules. They're very rebellious. They're very impatient. They don't take any orders from anyone. They're not big socializers unless it's with their own kind. They know what's right and wrong. You don't need to tell them. They might be very sensitive to chemicals and allergens. They might be perceived as weird by teachers, you know, diagnosed with all sorts of stuff. Later in life, they might move around a lot, change jobs. Indigos have a warrior spirit because their collective purpose is to mash down old systems that no longer serve us. So that's funny because when I started doing this research like a few years ago, I was like, shit, man, I'm an Indigo. I'm the worst kind. I'm really sorry for my parents, but I was an awful, rebellious child. I mean, it was really awful. I ran away from home when I was 16, 17. I got found by Interpol in Switzerland. I was living in Germany. Got brought back home. I skipped school. I hated school and, you know, teachers and homework, and I just had my own learning style. So I decided to homeschool myself the last 2 years. I refused to participate in any lessons. And strangely enough, I graduated with straight A's because I, you know, had my own learning method, and I just didn't like being surrounded by 30 kids and tension and, you know, teachers that didn't enjoy their jobs and all that stuff. So I was an awful Indigo child. Yeah. So I don't even think if someone had told me back then, hey, but you're an Indigo, I think I would have punched their faces, because what does that help me, right? Plus, you can't go to school and say, you know what, I don't have behavioral issues. I'm actually special. I'm an Indigo child. They will just look at you like you're an alien. Anyway, and I suspect there's a few Indigos here. So type in the box if you believe you might be one. It might have been even before the 1980s or after the 1980s. But if that sounds a little bit like you, and you're always questioning things and you don't like to take orders, etc., you might be an Indigo. And Indigos, they also have positive traits, by the way. I'm just putting all the negative ones, but they are very telepathic. You know, they have quite some intuitive gifts, and they really come here to, you know, to, yeah, mash down the old systems and everything that's not working anymore. Okay. And also they can sense dishonesty. So if anyone is ever lying to them, they know immediately. They cannot be manipulated at all. Doesn't work. Or patronized, even worse. Yeah, and they are unable to conform to dysfunctional situations. So like me at home, work, school, I just couldn't. When you're in a dysfunctional home, I was just acting up all the time. So Doreen Virtue wrote some amazing books. You can Google her. And she wrote that ADHD should stand for attention dialed into a higher dimension. So this would more accurately describe that generation, because, you know, ADHD is just this awful term, but really these are not all the children, but some of these kids really have special gifts. They can access higher dimensions, and then they bring deep wisdom and knowledge. And mostly they're all old souls as well. Next up, we have the crystal children. So they were born after the Indigos. mainly like 2000 and after, but some also before. And they operate out of a group consciousness rather than individually. And they are like, they're very blissful actually, and even tempered, and for the most part, easygoing and forgiving. And they are the generation that benefits from all the hard work of the indigos, because the ideal scenario, of course, is that the indigo child leads full speed ahead, cutting down anything that lacks integrity. And then crystal children show up and they just follow that cleared path into a safer and more secure world. And with these kids, many of them have delayed speech patterns, and they might get diagnosed with Asperger's, with autism, like my little sister, for example. She's quite autistic, but she's very telepathic, very empathic. She knows exactly what you're feeling because she feels it in her own body. They have healing abilities. They're interested, or can be interested, in crystals, rocks, nature, animals. They're actually very artistic and creative, very sensitive to noises and crowds, sensitive to chaotic environments. And again, Doreen Virtue, she writes about these kids, that they're not autistic, but they are autistic, which I like. And next up, we have the rainbow children. So they haven't been coming for a long time yet. For sure above the 2000s. And so they're the embodiment of our divinity and the example of our potential. With the amazing thing with these rainbow children, they come here, they have never lived here, they are purely old souls with a very high consciousness level. They have no karma whatsoever. So I wished that had been me, but it wasn't. And they are fearless of everybody. They're little avatars who are all about service, and they're only here to give. Rainbow children already at their spiritual peak. So on YouTube, there's full of videos where parents are filming their little children who are really old souls, and they're saying the most amazing, wise things. And it's really cute to witness that, like a child with, these old eyes already. Sometimes you see it in their eyes already, that they are pure love, and it's such an old soul. And they're actually born in the 9th dimension of consciousness, which is the dimension of collective consciousness. And they're born to smile, to bring joy to us. And the also amazing thing about them is that they recover from negative emotions quite quickly. So they don't hold any grudges. They are very forgiving. And they're very psychic, these kids. Very psychic. They can see all sorts of stuff, and they can perceive how you're feeling, what you're thinking, etc. They also can be very hyperactive, and they love color and colorful surroundings. And they're very creative as well. So, okay, in summary, all these kids, Indigo, Crystal, and Rainbow, Doreen Virtue writes about them. They are worthy of awe, not labels of dysfunction. If anything is dysfunctional, it's the systems that are accommodating the continuing evolution of the human species. If we shame these children with labels or medicate them into submission, we will have undermined a heaven-sent gift. We will crush a civilization before it has time to take roots. So, all these kids, and you might have your own kids by now, or people who have kids who are being, labeled with autism, ADD, etc. Especially in the United States, it's quite big over there. They all are medicated with Ritalin, and also UK, I think, less so in France. In Switzerland, I can tell you, I worked with a boy. He had been labeled with ADD, and he had been taking medication for many years. And this poor boy lost his mom when he was just 11, and she had been sick, and she died of an illness. And this kid was just so amazing. His biggest wish was to somehow connect with his mom's soul again and make sure she's fine. He just wanted to make sure that, she's not having any pain anymore, that she's fine, and say his final goodbye. And for many years he had been wishing this. And then when I met this boy, I really wanted to help him. So I taught him Reiki level 1. I taught him how to meditate, and eventually I taught him how to access or how to connect to his mother's soul, who also came to talk to him, and he could see her, he could feel her, he got messages from her. He started crying, and it was such a true moment, such a beautiful, raw moment where he could let go, where he finally got what he wanted, and where he was in peace. He felt in peace after that. And then he told me in tears that this was like his biggest dream come true. And it was for me like one, if not the most amazing time in my life to witness that. And for sure, he's a special child. Of course, he had been labeled with ADD, but for me, he's a crystal child, like really, really extraordinarily gifted. Okay, let's talk about karma, or the law of cause and effect. Now, here's a great picture that demonstrates how it works. I'm sure you saw that picture somewhere around. It's all over social media. And so let's talk about karma. Of course, karma is an ancient concept, just as old as reincarnation. It's part of it. And that teaches us that all our thoughts, words, and actions, so it's not just our actions, but even our thoughts can create karma. And that begins a chain of cause and effect that we will personally experience. Okay, so we may not experience the effect right now. So if you do something stupid right now, it might not be in this life that it comes back to you. It might be in the next life. Okay, so it depends. It all has its divine timing. And it's a cosmic law, which means that it applies to everyone, everywhere, all the time. You cannot escape from it. But what I want you to know also, karma is not this evil thing. It's actually, it exists entirely for our own good. It allows us to make progress in our soul's evolution. And that is our ultimate goal, that our soul evolves, right? So karma is just our teacher. It's showing us that our behavior, our actions have reactions from other people. And so we come here to master this, right? From life to life, we get better and better. And in fact, karma can also be positive. And I believe the Buddhists call it dharma when it's positive karma. And that's when you do good things. And so according to Buddhism, they say we ourselves are responsible for our own happiness and misery. We create our own heaven. We create our own hell. And we are the architects of our own fate. So I like that. Now, what does karma mean actually? Well, those are the sayings that we say frequently. I'm sure you heard about it. In Sanskrit, it means act, action, or word. How do we get karma? Of course, there's like 1 million things. I'm not gonna mention the obvious ones like killing someone or all these things, but I'm mentioning 3 points here that I found important. One of them is, and I've witnessed it so many times, is when people are so judgmental about other people's lives and they're like, oh my God, look at who just left his wife, or who just cheated, or look at that person, what he or she is doing. And these people frequently will experience the same thing at some point in their life. And then they will finally understand what it is like to be in that person's shoes. So they become more compassionate. And I cannot emphasize how many times I've seen this when someone has been judgmental around me or around other people. And then I saw the same or similar things happening to them. So be aware of, how you judge people. And then obviously wishing people to not do well. So if you keep wishing people not to do well, the same will come back to you eventually. So, and then to take more than you give. So if you keep sucking everyone's energy, everyone's time, everyone's money, whatever, but you don't give anything back, there will be an imbalance, and then karma will also be present, right? It should be at least balance, if not give more. You cannot do anything wrong by giving more. It will always come back to you tenfold, if not more. Okay, karmic relationships. So I think we talked a little bit about the soul family before, how you reincarnate together again and again, making sure that you resolve all the karma. And there might be negative people in your family or, partners, and you don't want to deal with them, but it's a good thing to actually sort out things so that you feel peaceful. If you feel peaceful and you feel you have forgiven those people, there's no karma between you. But if there's any form of resentment between you and other family members, any form of anger, hatred, all these negative emotions, and you keep holding on to them for months, years, decades, probably you haven't resolved the karma then, and then you will keep coming back to sort it out in a future life or in the next life. And also what I want to say about karmic relationships. So many of us keep obsessing about, when will I meet my soulmate? You don't have just one soulmate. So if one relationship ends with who you thought was your soulmate, there will be others coming, because they're all part of your soul family, those soulmates. So many people stay in karmic relationships because they think, but he's my, or she is my one and only soulmate. I'm not going to meet anyone anymore. It's not true. You're going to meet other soulmates. So just so you know. And also, sometimes we keep those attributes that we had in a previous life. So for example, if you were a mother and you had a son, and then you reincarnate in this life together, and you are soulmates as a partner in a romantic relationship, the mother from the previous life might still be mothering her partner as if he were her child, and the child and the guy in this life who was the child might be behaving like a child and expecting all sorts of stuff from his partner, you know, being mothered, and she has to do all the tasks and do everything. And you see this playing out a lot in many relationships, that they are just playing out what they had in previous lifetimes. It's quite funny. So it's very important that we understand our relationships. Sometimes it's not explicable from this life, so we go back into past lives to understand. So what happens with karmic relationships, you're actually energetically tied to that person. So not just with romantic partners, but with any karmic relationship. It can be with your mother, your father. You establish these karmic bonds, and you cannot see them, but it's an energy that links you to them. And that's these cords come when you feel guilty, or when you feel like all these negative emotions, when it's an uneven relationship and there's a lot of jealousy, or any karma between you will create such a cord, which means you're tied to that person. And that's why it's so difficult to leave someone when you're in a karmic relationship, and why you keep coming back together all the time. So I had to cut a lot of those cords with my family, with my exes. It's fun, I tell you. Sometimes they grow back and you have to cut it again. So what else do you need to know when you're in a karmic relationship? So questions to ask here is, do you find yourself in an emotional roller coaster of extreme highs and lows in this relationship? Have you ended this relationship more than once, and then you keep coming back and it's the same dysfunctional pattern? Are you constantly triggering each other? Do you feel your partner is a mirror to your soul, like he just shows you all your freaking flaws and weaknesses? And does it feel like a codependent relationship? So in these kind of relationships, there's no growth on an inner level. There's just a lot of confusion, a lot of pain, a lot of indecision. The inner growth usually just comes after you end that relationship, and then there's a massive growth. That's what I experienced. And most of the times, your friends, your family keep nagging. They don't like your partner. It's not good enough for you, blah, blah, blah. And when I was in karmic relationships, I didn't want to listen. I was like, they have no idea, whatever. But most of the times, our friends and family know that we deserve better and that we could be happier, more fulfilled, So I decided to listen more to my family the next time around. Okay, so past life examples. Okay, so I'm going to share a bit about my past life examples. So I told you about this guy I went to Azerbaijan to live with. He was Azerbaijani. He was a soulmate. We had this, like, when he met me the first time, it was in a bar. He had to run to the toilet. He was sweating. He was completely shocked. He didn't know why, because there was something familiar about me, but he couldn't explain it. For him, it was this immediate thing. And for me, it wasn't. I think I had a few glasses of champagne by then, so I didn't feel anything. But for him, it was very conscious from the beginning. And I felt it took me 1 year to get together with this man. Something kept pushing me away, and it was definitely this karma. But it got to me eventually after 1 year. So we got together. I went to Azerbaijan for him. Didn't work out. It was very karmic. Lots of fights, lots of screaming, quite verbally abusive as well, I would say. Lots of communication issues. And I was just, fed up. Tried to leave, but I couldn't. Same for him. He would leave and come back all the time. A nightmare. And still we wanted to get married. I don't know what I was thinking back then. I wanted to get married to him. And yeah, so not just that, I also wanted his kids, which is even worse. But I was always scared of having kids somehow, and I never knew why. And when I was in Thailand experiencing my past lives, it was funny because also this guy never drove a car in his life. He was so scared of driving. Okay, he wouldn't do the driving license, even though it was required for his job to have a driving license. He didn't do it. We didn't know why. He didn't know why. So yeah, no one ever died in a car accident. There was never anything that went wrong. Inexplicable. So when I saw my first past life, we were in a different century, and he was driving a horse carriage. I was next to him, and we had 3 kids in the back. And he had an accident, and our kids died. So he brought forward this trauma of losing his kids, and that's why he never wanted to drive. And gosh, I was crying a lot when I saw this past life, and I released all that, and I understood why we had to come back together again to resolve this massive karma between us, and all the feelings of guilt that he had. And when I did a healing on him, he resolved that issue too, and he's driving nowadays very fine, nothing preventing him from driving. So that's, yeah, and after that past life got healed, I finally felt ready to let go of this man, right? With love, with respect, with gratitude, no ill feelings. I left him even though I loved him. It was very tough, but finally when this past life got healed and resolved, the karmic cords were cut, I was able to move out of this relationship. And yeah, it was, yeah, amazing, really. And another story, with another ex of mine, and that's also quite an amazing story, actually. So when I was a teenager, all my friends were in relationships. You know, they were starting to have romantic relationships and being sexually active, and I wasn't, and I was scared of it, even though I had a very nice boyfriend who was loving, attentive, patient. But when he wanted, you know, to sleep with me, I would freak out, and I had this thought of, oh no, but then I have to sleep with him again and again and again. And I didn't know where these thoughts came from, because I have never been sexually abused or had any trauma in that sense. But I broke up with him because I was too scared. And I never understood this behavior and this fear of, yeah, sexuality and all that has to do with it. And I thought it was weird. I couldn't place it. So sometimes I even made up stories that I had been sexually abused, and I felt awful, but I made it up. So when I dated a guy, and I was in a relationship with that guy, I just started with him. We had good sex, I would say, but afterwards I felt awful, and I would have to go home. I would leave him, go home. And if a man ever did that to me, I would punch him. But that's what I was doing to him. I just couldn't. There was something weird between us. I couldn't place it. I felt like hurting this man, even though that's not my nature. I felt awful. I couldn't explain it. Very weird things happening. And then I had a past life where I saw that I had been sexually abused by him as a child. And again, I was just crying a lot and healing, and all these visions came up and all these feelings I had in that past life. It's very vivid moments when you experience these past lives, but also very healing. So I understood why I was behaving that way, and it was so healing and so amazing. And again, I could let go without any issues of that karmic relationship and that man. And after that, I had many clients with the same issues. They had been sexually abused or even raped in previous lives, and they were meeting those men or women again in this life just to resolve the karma, right? It's happening a lot, especially this year. And this is why I'm sharing the story, because normally only my best friends know about it, but I thought it's worthy to share. Maybe it's not applicable to you, but maybe your friends, you know, who have these kind of issues too. So yeah, those were 2 of my stories. And basically it's all about, you know, we go and see past lives to see what the lesson is, and then to let go of that relationship or that lesson. So so here's an example of what can go wrong with reincarnation. I assume one of my exes will end up like this. No, I'm joking. I just thought it's very funny. Okay, very important question. How do we resolve the karma, right? So how people treat you is their karma, how you react is yours. So obviously when we have been wronged and people behave like a-holes, we have those revengeful thoughts maybe, some people even act them out, but in the end it's just your karma then. So it's not good to react in any awful way. Sorry, I went quick there. So how do we resolve karma? So first of all, we need to understand that we are in a karmic relationship. We need to understand what has been happening. And you can do that either by seeing your own past lives. You know, people can learn how to do that. There's courses. You can even look on YouTube. There's guided meditations. Or you might want to do it with a professional. There's hypnotherapists or Reiki therapists or other healers who can help you to get in touch with your soul and to see what was happening back then. Meditation can help, and then definitely cutting cords. Once you understood what was happening, cutting cords with these people with whom you had a karmic relationship, and a whole lot of forgiveness and gratitude as well. Once you learned the lesson and why it has been karmic, I have been so grateful to all these exes. I have no resentment whatsoever anymore left. There's no anger, no disappointment, just the ultimate amount of unconditional love, you know, for them to teach me this and to help me heal on a very deep soul level. So yeah, that's to that. And now I wanted to let you know that I'm looking for 5 beta testers for my amazing program that I want to launch. It's all about past life regression and healing. So it's 4 weeks long. Every week we have 60 to 90 minutes of past life regression, where you will do a meditation. You will see your own past lives. You will understand more about your own karmic relationships, your own soul, anything you need to understand right now in your life that is beneficial for you to progress. The regular price will be $297, so it's amazing. It's free for you if you sign up. You just have to be committed. I really want people that take this seriously, that will take the time each week to do these exercises with me and to give feedback, and I will be very involved. If necessary, I can have one-on-ones with you just to make sure you're fine. So yeah, just email me if you want to be part of it. Most likely we will start towards the end of September because I'm traveling a bit now, and then for 4 weeks. Okay, so let me know. Recommended reading. So I told you before about Many Lives, Many Masters. The guy who wrote it, this psychiatrist, is Brian Weiss, and he has many other books too that are amazing. So if you're looking to read more on past lives, on soul families, karma, it's all described in these case studies. And another favorite book of mine is Journey of Souls by Michael Newton. He also has a few books out there, and that's also amazing. Really in-depth case studies of what happens, not just in past lives, but what happens after that past life ends and your soul travels back to source, and what happens back in source, and how you plan your next life, for example, how you choose your parents. I mean, amazing stuff. Oh, okay, so that's already a thank you here for participating. And now we have questions and answers. So I'm just gonna try stop sharing my slides.